think the Uber dropped us off at the wrong spot.
Now, believe it or not, the stadium is right behind us.
Oh, okay, okay. Why couldn't they play this game in SoCal or Miami? It had to be here in the snow. Just gringos, always looking to use their mañas against us, man. Oh man. Gosh. Anyway, we're prepping because the cold is among us, especially for us that aren't used to it. SoCal, NorCal. It's been a chilly month of December. Now we're moving into January. Be safe out there, all this COVID stuff going on. But in the meantime, we're here to talk about La Selecta. Sorry for the hiatus, but we're back with another episode of the Corner Blue. So welcome to episode 41. Thanks for joining. Happy New Year, and let's get started. And with that, everybody, let's get this 2022 started. Hugo, how have you been? I know you've been super busy. I've been busy. I'm just glad we were finally able to sit down and kick off the new year in the best of ways.
It's been good. It's been a good year. I'm in a good beginning of the year. Obviously, there's the COVID surge again, and we just have to be extra careful. But I'm happy that we have 3 games coming up. Looking forward to them. Even
The
considering
decisive
going
ones.
decisive ones.
Yeah.
Yes, big matches for us. Happy to hear that the team is already working, practicing for those games. I think that's really important. So it's good. It's good, and I'm happy that we're doing another show. We haven't done them in a while now. It seems like things get really, really crazy around the holidays, and there's barely any time to sit down and record something. But here we are, hoping that everyone's doing well. Wishing everyone a great new year.
Definitely. And I mean, we weren't able to chat about how things worked out last month with La Selecta getting the couple of friendlies against Ecuador and Chile. And they were matches that, on paper didn't make too much sense, considering it wasn't a FIFA window, considering that the next qualifying match wasn't almost until a month after. So it's one of those matches where in terms of the planning of it, you're like, logistically, it's going to be hard for them to pull it off. And of course, there was aftermath with clubs trying to negotiate, or FIFA or La FESFUT trying to negotiate with the clubs in El Salvador to have the players loaned out. It seemed like there was some issue around it, but at the end of the day, things were resolved. They were able to field the squad for both matches, and the results were pretty decent. What do you think about them, Hugo?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to go watch the game against Chile. It's been so long, I can't remember Ecuador, but I think Ecuador was a good match as well. Was it a tie?
Yeah, it was a tie.
It's a tie. Sorry, everyone. As you can see, just so everyone knows, it's 10 o'clock right now when we're recording. When the kids are down, they're sleeping. So our brains are not fully working properly at this time. But yes, I mean, 2 really good matches. I think for us, for where we stand as a national team, these games are highly useful, highly productive for the coaching staff. Some people may say, why are we scheduling games on out of FIFA dates? But again, as I said, where we stand, I think that as a national team, our players can really benefit from these games, from playing against other players who may not be the A squad for Ecuador and Chile. They do play in leagues that are more competitive than our leagues, and I think it's a great learning experience for our players. And I thought they were highly productive for the coaching staff. I mean, the game against Chile,
That's the one I watched, and
yeah,
it seemed that in comparison to the Ecuador match, they seem the most comfortable against Chile. Again, You're seeing the steps that Landaverde is taking, and he's making big strides to the point that it seems that he's highly probable to start yet again against the U.S. Granted, Chile got to score in the final minutes. There was a breakdown, but these are the type of circumstances that you want players to get, the experience you want them to get, where it doesn't cost us. Because again, we make a lot of similar mistakes in terms of closing out games or game management, and due to mistakes, games can run away from us. So I think you imagine you get starts or minutes against national teams like Ecuador, Chile. That's a motivation in of itself. And we have to be unorthodox in the sense that these matches, despite not being in the FIFA match dates, do serve a purpose. The team does get together. And I mean, it does prove that, there's still a lot to be done in terms of the logistics and planning on the FESFUT's end, and also its promoters. But at least, like I mentioned before, it's not your usual friendly against Suate, Honduras, Nicaragua, respectfully. It just means that you're playing a different type of rival. You're playing a rival with a different style, a different physicality and tactics. And I think if you get these young guys there, it basically, they're growing, but it also replaces the times that they would have gotten, let's say, with like an UNCAF, because those tournaments don't exist anymore. Those tournaments were played like not during a FIFA date. So in theory, the clubs didn't have to release their players for those types of tournaments. So I think if we can think outside the box, you can excuse some of the planification of matches that don't necessarily coordinate too well with the qualifiers. I think it would have been ideal to have these sparring matches during the camp that the team is going to have leading into the next qualifying window, which is the 27th of January. Hugo, can you talk to us a little bit about the training camp, or what info you've gotten on what has been concretely planned in the lead up to the match against the U.S.?
Yeah, I think yesterday Hugo Carrillo made it public that there is a camp scheduled in the North Pole, Greenland, actually, to be more specific, Svalbard. No, there's a camp being worked on in the week leading to the game in Indianapolis, I believe, or around that area, which it's very close to Columbus. Weather-wise, it's going to be the same conditions as Columbus will be. So I think it's a great. It's good to hear that that there's this planning going on leading to that game. Obviously, a lot of people think that we don't have a chance anymore, but I think that we still do. Mathematically, we still do. And giving Hugo Perez all the tools that he needs to prepare for that match as best as possible, it's good. I think Carrillo shared that. Just that camp alone, I don't know if he was also referring to the camp plus traveling to Honduras, plus coming back to play Canada. The whole camp was about $200,000, including some negotiation that they've made with the league about the players. And it seems like, and don't quote me on this, I might be wrong, but there was an interview on Fanáticos Plus yesterday, and I think FESFUT might be covering the salaries of those players who are going to be in the camp, or probably starting from now, the ones that are already started the camp down in El Salvador. So from what I know, from what I heard yesterday, that's the plan. I think the team will probably travel to the United States somewhere around the 19th, I believe, the 18th or the 19th, and they're going to spend a whole week training under the same conditions that they may encounter during the game, which will be something like, what you see here in the background. So it's good. It's the players have to get used to that. The physical trainer has to warm them up in a different way, and it's good for their bodies to get used to those conditions. So I think it's good that they're having that camp, and it shows you that the team is taking these games seriously, that we're not throwing the towel yet, that we're going to go for it. We're going to play against probably the best team in CONCACAF, two of the best teams in CONCACAF, USA and Canada at this time. And we were taking the games very, very seriously, and I think that camp is going to help the team to be as cohesive as possible, not only getting used to the weather, but also to hanging out together, training together, and hopefully we get to see a team that performs in a similar way as they did back in the Gold Cup when they had that 1 month camp in Croatia.
Yeah, I think the positive of this is, like you said, you get the guys together, get that chemistry going, work on adjusting to the weather for those that aren't used to those types of conditions, and in a way kind of isolating themselves, because usually when they come out to like SoCal or the DMV, people have family out there and stuff. There's more distractions, even when the team's concentrated before, friendly matches or whatever match, even if it's, if in Houston, all the places where there's a huge Salvi community. So I think in this sense, it is positive that they're going to be in an area that, they'll be isolated for the most part, be able to focus in on what's on the horizon. I'm curious to see how the team responds in terms of the guys that have been inactive due to the MLS break, and then also coming back from injuries. Like ideally, you're looking at almost a full squad that we haven't had basically since the first window, because a lot of guys have gone down with injuries. But you're hoping that, Eric along with Ronald are up to speed, that they're match fit, that they put their injuries behind them, and they can just give us those performances that we expect to see from that they've shown that they can give us, but we've only seen a little bit during the qualifiers, unfortunately. So I think if we can show up with the full squad, especially in the defense, that gives me hope that at least we can expect a decent performance out of this team coming out of that mini camp. Honduras, like as always, it's a flip of a coin how things are going to do, how things can play out over in San Pedro Sula. Canada, I'm hungry to see that match. I think, Canada is the only team that I could say truly ran us over throughout this whole process. We've been pretty level with the rest of the competition, except for Canada. You can make the argument with Mexico, but we basically play with the BC squad almost, or at least with a lot of people missing. So, and then they put their BC team too, and it was an ugly match. But in terms of Canada, that was when we were coming out of the draw at home with the US. The team seemed motivated. There was a lot of positive energy going into it, and things broke down in the worst of ways. I think this is the rematch. This is time to try and get those 3 points back. And I think if we can punch Canada, it'll be a wake-up call to the rest of the teams in the area, whether or not we're still in this. But I think if we can show up Canada and show that we're not falling behind as much as other people might think we are, that's the time to make the statement. Regardless of anything, the US, you're going into harsh conditions. I know it's not an excuse, but it's a huge factor. And Honduras, like I said, coin flip. But Canada, I really hope that the team shows up to it and can get a result that helps us forget the 3-0 out in Toronto.
Yeah, I think what's going to be important, and it's tough. I mean, we know that what we have ahead of us is not easy at all. But I believe it's U.S., then followed by Honduras, right? And then the third match is against Canada. So there are several factors there. One is that it's going to be key to get some points in the first two matches, so that both the team is mentally focused and still in the fight, and so that the fans show up and support. Because as we know, if we lose those two matches, then the fans are not likely to show up to the game against Canada. And then the other factor is 3 games in a week. Again, we're dealing against the same thing, and our squad, as we know, is very reduced in terms of options. So that third game against Canada, it's going to be important to see a rotation in the first match against the U.S. and Honduras, so that our players can be physically in good shape for that game against Canada, who may be our final card to stay alive. Again, depending on how we do in the first 2 matches, but we're playing at home against Canada. And the whole thing about the way we lost against them, as you said, I agree, it was our worst game of all, of the whole octagonal. So I think it's going to be a good
Hugo Perez process, I would say.
Right. So it's going to be a good rematch against probably the best team at the moment in the octagonal, in terms of how they're performing as a team, not historically, but the way they're currently playing. Canada, I think, is a team that everybody respects at this time. So it's going to be interesting. And going back to what you mentioned about especially the players, MLS-based players like Eric and Roldan, it'll be interesting to see how they're doing.
Guys, because they've been on break for a while too.
But the good thing with the USL guys is that a lot of them are already. All the USL guys are already in El Salvador training, so I'm not too worried about them. But the MLS-based players are not with the team yet. And I think Hugo said yesterday that, because they are, I mean, I don't know Eric's situation, but because they are still linked to MLS in one way or another, they don't have the permission to go to El Salvador and participate in this early camp that El Salvador is doing. So yeah, so those 2 guys are probably the 2 players that hopefully they're working on their own during preseason. I mean, they're both are some of the most disciplined and professional players that we have in the national team. I'm not too worried in that sense, but it's different, to train on your own than training with a team. Then everyone else, Costa Rica, they already started the preseason, and I say that because of Cristian Martinez. Where else? I mean, El Salvador, already started, and I know MLS is starting their preseason early, but not early enough for what will help our national team. But the good thing is that the league does start early in El Salvador, so at least those local-based players, I'm thinking we'll probably get to play those games, even though there's a camp. I'm thinking the national team will let them go play those games. I don't know, but it's important. Yeah, it's important to start as early as we're starting, because of the game coming up and preseasons just starting in some places. So yeah, it will be 3 very, very important, probably the most important matches. All matches are important in the octagonal, but if we want to
These are the
be
make or
alive.
break. Yeah, these are
Yeah.
the make or break. I mean, you can give up points early on. It's not ideal, but this is when either you make them back or you sink. It's sink or swim. So we just got to take it from there. And again, just enjoy the fact that we get 3 matches in 1 week and against, some of the marquee opponents in the area, Canada and the US. Who would have thought, right? That here we would be talking about Canada and the great moment that they're having when they were seventh place out of the
We're
top
out.
six. Yeah.
Canada was out of the hexagonal.
But then you just stop and think like everything that's happened since, La Selecta was meandering. It had plateaued. I feel like there were some issues internally that administratively, but also inside the team that were coming out. There were no surprise to any of us. And a change occurred at different levels. And we're in month 8 of it, if I'm not mistaken. And imagine if they would have been able to start this whole process fresh. But it is what it is. I think, there's enough facts out there or performances that lead me to believe that, if allowed to work, if trusted, we can see some interesting things happening short term, but mostly long term. And I think that's the main factor that you hear people talking about it, but mostly it's, people in the press or players or fans talking about the concept of a long proceso, right? Of a campaign being respected, a tenure of a coach being respected, and not being abruptly cut over money, over ego, over the issues that we know that plague the Salvadoran soccer. And in this case, so far, it's held up. It's still early, but I think if this whole attitude of being able to plan long term of these camps, of planning ahead, and these baby steps are taken, the mistakes that are being made currently are corrected along the way, I think it will bear some positive fruit. I mean, granted, you don't want to see La Selecta at the, second to last in the tabla. That's not where we want the team to be. But we have had certain performances here and there that have been very exciting. And I think it leaves it open that if we can focus more on like the head-to-head series, things look somewhat possible in the sense, okay, we tied the US at home. If we just get one L against them, that's not that horrible or outside of the script. If we can get a point, holy shit, that would be great. The dub, I mean, as a fan, right? As the masochistic Salvadoran supporter, a win away in harsh conditions, I mean, that's to me asking a lot. But if something were to happen, it'd be amazing. Then Canada, it's a head-to-head series. We need to get that dub back from them. I don't think that it's unfathomable, especially playing at home at El Cusca. And then Honduras, we should have had that game at home. We let it slip away, and I think San Pedro Sula is like, a clone of El Cusca in a sense, and the players are used to playing there and against that type of crowd, the same type of puteadas. So I think, there it's pretty feasible. I think that we can get those 3 points. So we'll see where it goes with that. So you're thinking of going to the US match, or which one are you considering?
Yeah, I'm considering the US match. Honestly, some of my concerns are the extreme surge in COVID cases. I mean,
Yeah.
LA County went from 2,500 per day to 26,000.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. It seems like the thing is everywhere. So, when you have a family, you really have to consider those things and what you want to get into and bring home. So But yeah, I mean, I would really like to be there, so I'm considering it.
Nice. That'd be awesome to live something like that. I mean, if I were single, not a dad, and had disposable income just for myself, I'd totally be there. But this time around, no, yet again, I'm gonna have to sit out another round of qualifier. But I am still setting my sights on March. I think now with the news of the new stadium coming out, who knows if this is like the last couple of matches of the national team or La Selecta that we see at Cusca at this stage of qualifying. So since the news of the new stadium getting started, or at least the rendering and being presented to the public, came out about a couple weeks ago, I started thinking, no, imagine going to a national team match at home and it's not at Cusca, and I haven't been there in a few years, and it's something that I've been wanting to be able to go back. So that one I'm seriously considering. If things calm down, especially with the pandemic, it seems like something I need to do just one final time of singing the national anthem at Cusca. I have to try and do it. So, and you should too. Well, I can't believe you haven't gone to Cusco yet. We
I
should
have
start
not.
like a GoFundMe or something to get your ass out to Cusco. You have to go. You have to.
Email us if you're willing to pitch in
The
for me
sponsor.
to watch a game at Cusca.
Yeah, he'll wear your gear. He'll do video vlogs, whatever you need, and just be shouting out your business the whole way. But yes, we need to get Uul to Cusca before the new stadium is built. But yeah, no, that's exciting news. That's cool rendering. Cool
I've
photos.
only been to one stadium in El Salvador.
Which
One,
one?
the UCA.
Okay.
That's
They
the
fixed that
only.
one up.
Yeah, when I went there, they had. I
Oh,
think
sorry,
yeah,
the
they had.
US they fixed. The US was the one they fixed up. That's
Sorry,
cool.
yes, sorry, that's the one.
US?
US is the one I went to. Yes, I
Okay.
went there 2012, 2013. I went to watch a game there.
Nice.
So I'll make it to El Cusca.
No, you have to. You have to. Or else,
Make it.
I mean, granted, it wouldn't be bad if you went to a Liga Mayor match, but it's a completely different experience.
I'm dying to watch a game of La Liga Mayor. I am.
on Centro America TV, where it's like all pixelated, or
No, live.
HD live in the flesh.
Live.
No, they're fun. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I got to go watch FAS Alianza back in the day, like 2015. And I even got to be there when like both the barras like started fighting each other and throwing rocks and shit. Like one like school bus like or coaster rolled up on like the coaster of the Aliancistas, and they got out, started throwing shit, vergazos, and then one took off around the Redondel, and then the Aliancistas just got right behind her and probably chased them all the way back to Santana. Like, and my cousin and I are waiting for my cousin to pick us up. We're like, maybe we should start walking that. Fuck this shit.
So you're trying to encourage me to go to a game or discourage me from going to a game?
Hey, it's all about the folklore and the cultural aspect of it. So, I mean, that was a Liga Mayor match. If you go to Cusca when El Salvador's playing, everyone there is wearing blue. It's like, take some of the matches that are played here, right? But it has that different taste to it just because it's actually in the homeland, you know?
Yeah.
And everyone's wearing blue. No one's really fighting. That's only until hours later in Vietnam, after everyone's been chilling in Vietnam or in the stadium for 5 hours drinking. But nah, it's a great experience. It's a time warp, but I think what I appreciate about the games that I've seen at Cusca is I've heard stories of my grandpa taking my tios, that type of stuff from, when it first opened in the 70s and throughout the 80s. Even during the war, there were games and stuff like that. And just the history of it, you appreciate it. And the other thing too is when you go to those games, you're walking around legends of Salvadoran football. Like you'll see players from the 82 squad walking among you. You'll see players from the 70 squad walking around you, and then that's our temple of soccer, our temple of footy there, and there's just good memories and history there, and I think that aspect is what I enjoy a lot about it. Also the beers and the choripanes, but we'll see if that translates into something so new and modern once the new stadium is built, and that'll be interesting to see how stuff's handled. I wish that El Cusca would have been remodeled along the way, but Edesa, which is the entity that owns the stadium, just they haven't managed that stadium in the right way. And I've had issues with them too in the past, trying to get interviews or footage there and thinking I have a clearance or the go ahead, and then getting there and getting kicked out. Stuff like that. And hopefully if the stadium's going to be in the hands of the government, that they do a good job administrating it, maintaining it, and
The new one, you mean?
yeah, and just managing it the way it should be, which is something that hasn't happened with the Cusca, unfortunately. But despite it all, I mean, it's the stadium to be at when you're out there. So hopefully you get to go.
Yeah, I'm hoping that happens. I think if we didn't have COVID, I would have been there by now for one of the current matches. I mean, it's a pretty unique experience. I mean, I bet just being there is a unique experience, and for me, I'm if I was able to be there as part of the national team staff, I think that would just be amazing. Which I have already had that experience in the friendly matches here, and this it's a nice experience. Being there in El Salvador is probably just a different level.
Yeah. No, and that would be amazing. I feel like that would be like the full circle for you. Is you're back there, you're participating as a member of the staff. Oh man, that would be a great moment. Hopefully you get that along the way, especially just trying to imagine what it's like walking through the tunnel, on the way up to the match level.
Come out of the tunnel, recibir una gran pedrada.
No, una bolsita de
agua.
Una
bolsita de agua. De agua de riñón.
Yeah, they're bit. Oh, ahí va el gringo.
Ahí va el chicano.
Oh man, don't get me started on that. But yeah, so that's what we have ahead. A good set of qualifiers, a couple of home game matches that if you can make it out there, you definitely should try. I'm still waiting. I'm looking at prices for flights, and they're pretty good right now. At least from NorCal, they're like around $400 to $300 around that time. I'm also gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till the end of this match window to like pull the trigger on the trip to go see a match. But the other cool thing would be, going to see the Costa Rica game home, and if we're still in the fight, try and make it to El Azteca. That would be fucking amazing. But I can't justify it unless we're still alive. So that's something that logistically, I'm still waiting to see. It would be very exciting. I haven't been back in the Salvador, and it's going to be 5 years. And I know many of you have had to spend several years from going back home for various reasons or another, but 5 is my record, man. I've never been away this long, and it feels weird. It's you crave it. You're jonesing for it, And sometimes it's not the easiest places to go back to because of security reasons and whatnot. Or maybe you're like me, and sometimes you kind of get stuck at your family's house and they don't let you go out as much and stuff, or you get stank eye from your tia if you come back past 9 p.m. So it's not as worth it. Love you, tia. Anyway. It's something that I'm craving. Hopefully I can go back this year. That's one of my goals. But moving on, do you want to talk about the list at all? We can show it up here so people can look at it. Okay, and here we have the list for the next match window. Granted, it's not final. There will be revisions, and some players haven't been included or weren't included originally, but we're pretty sure they're going to be called up. With the goalies, we have Super Mario Gonzalez. We also have Kevin Caravantes and then Sergio Cibrian. There was an issue with Tomas Romero where, I mean, I've seen reports. No me consta, I don't have any facts on this other than what I've seen in the reports, where he hasn't been called up just because LASC supposedly doesn't have more than one keeper guaranteed right now. So they're asking, or they're basically not letting him go early or for this window. I don't know if that's 100% true, because it seems like if it's for a FIFA window, they'd have to like give him up no matter what. So I don't know if the coaching staff is agreeing to him not going. There's a rumor that the US has called him up, even though they have, he'd be like their fifth option down the line. So those are some of the topics that have come up in terms of Tomas Romero. Until he makes that debut in a FIFA match day, we'll that story will be over. And all you can do really is just hope him the best. It's a decision that is very personal. It varies depending on the player. Everyone has their reasons, and you got to respect that. I mean, what else can you do? You can't beg someone to play for you. Moving on, we have El Chelon, Eric Zabaleta on defense. He's a free agent, and we're waiting to see what his next step is in his career. There were rumors about Galaxy, since his uncle's out there coaching. We'll see what happens with that. Time will tell. Then we have Nelson Rodriguez, who's a surprise left back option who played against Chile and also Ecuador, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, because we were missing Larin. We have Ronald Rodriguez, who's on his return back from injury. Vigil makes his return into the squad. Roberto Dominguez came back. He missed a game or two. The last match window, there was speculation that he was over it, especially due to the goal that was scored versus Jamaica, which, Jerson basically cleared it up here that it was part of their defensive strategy of closing down, 3 versus Antonio, and he just EPL'd them. He just blew by him, so it's good to see that Dominguez is back despite what happened. You have Romulo Villalobos, Alexander Larin, who just won the CONCACAF Champions, the CONCACAF League or whatever, and just got second place in Guatemala. Tamacas on defense as well. Then the mid, we have
I think you missed one. One of the guys from the USL one, because it's Nelson Blanco, who's the left back.
He's the left back. Okay, my bad.
And then there's the other Nelson
Rodriguez. Yeah. All right, my bad on that.
It's gonna be
my bad to Nelson and Nelson. They're gonna get
right back.
All right, my bad on that. Then we have the mids. Eric Calvillo makes his return. He had a good couple of matches against Chile and Ecuador that justified him getting called up, and he was champion with his team in the USL Championship. Enrico, who is back with Vitesse. I know you've been in touch with him. He's just in preseason, right? They haven't had any like matches or anything like that.
They started preseason in Portugal with the plan of staying for 10 days, I think, or a whole week. And a game was going to take place tomorrow against Sorbete from Switzerland. But I think they had a couple of COVID positive cases, so they basically they cut the camp short and they went back to the Netherlands. But they're continuing, so the two guys are going to be isolated, and then Vitesse begins training tomorrow, which is Saturday.
Sounds like a smart move, so you don't get stuck in another country and not be able to make it back. Ugh.
Yeah.
So Enrico will be joining for the camp or right before the matches?
From what I saw on the information that Fast Food put out, seems like Enrico is the only player who only joined 2 days or 3 days before the game.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, at least he'll be busy fine tuning in the Netherlands. Then we have Wonder Boy Brian Landaverde, El Colochito, who's continuing with this stride, showing that La Liga Mayor does produce talent, as has been the case throughout all of our history. It's just as of recent that somehow things have been misinterpreted or construed so that it makes it seem like somehow this national team is only prioritizing those born abroad or playing abroad. And here's the case of someone that's basically taken this team by storm, and he's in there, and he's proven that he has this IQ, and it's been working out. We'll see if he continues in that role. Remember the midfield.
I'll tell you something that I usually don't like to say certain things for many reasons. People accuse you of being an agent. People accuse you of making money off of players, promoting players, which is something that I don't do anymore. And hopefully, if someone who thinks that way is listening and they speak English, I'm not hiding that I used to be an agent years ago. That's been public, it's been well known, but I no longer do it. But I'm a good friends with the scout of the Chilean national team. He's the scout and the video analyst. And Brian Landaverde was one that he was very impressed with. And I know he just renewed with FAS, but I think he was going to, I think a friend of his who's an agent had asked, about his situation. So, so that's just to say that these matches do serve a purpose. Players like
he wouldn't have been checked out. Yeah, he wouldn't have been seen at all.
Exactly. So there was some the Chilean scout at least was very impressed. And once we're done with the list, I'll share something else about that game and the Chilean scout and all that.
Sounds good. So then we also have Chicho Orellana. We have utility player Alex Roldan, who's also a free agent. We're waiting to see where he ends up for the following season. Veteran Darwin Seren is in the midfield. Always a polemic, or at least as of recent, a polemic, his inclusion or not. But as we've gotten the message from the coaching staff, they're not about pinpointing certain mistakes on one person. Obviously, they're looking at individual performance, but some of the mishaps that he's been a part of in the midfield, it seems that they're trying to look at the team's reaction as a whole rather than just using the scapegoat. And that's how they've been handling it. And then we also have Mary Monterrosa, and that closes out the mid. With the forwards, this is where things get a little interesting. You get Kevin Reyes, who's another one of those players that has been looked at with these non-FIFA match day friendlies. So he's made his way up in the ranks. Jairo Enriquez, as we all expect. Christian Gil, Joaquin Rivas, Walmer, who's seemed to have dipped off as of recently in terms of his performance. I've seen a lot of fans that have been reacting kind of negatively just because he seems to be kind of like in a scoring drought. But as we've mentioned here, along with Joaquin, their position isn't just meant to just be that striker in the box that receives, a touch and then they shut it down or they score. It seems like we use a false nine a lot. These guys run a lot. They get into position, but unfortunately, there have been issues with that last touch in the final third, and that's definitely affected their performance and whatnot. So he's there, and along with him, we also have Josh Perez that closes out the forwards. Oh, excuse me. We have the return of veteran Nelson Bonilla, who's been missing matches since the summer, due to at least what was published, just strict protocol for COVID from Thailand that would have prevented him from comfortably coming to El Salvador or wherever the team was playing and returning and being able to play with his club. It seems like he would have had to quarantine for an extensive amount of time each time upon returning to Thailand, which would have meant his club season would have been impacted severely, and thus it seems Hugo Perez and co were able to excuse him from La Selecta duty. But considering the low goal amount that this team has during this qualifying stage, it has to be all hands on deck. And so that's the list. There was news recently about Brian Hill once again. It seemed like things had gone in Colombia's favor. Then all of a sudden it was published by multiple sources that he had been called up once again and had accepted it. Well, do you know what stage that's in by chance? Is it still a passport thing, nationality thing, or has that been cleared and it's just him accepting the call, or FIFA approving the change of association? Do you know where this is at for now?
I don't know the details other than what it's public information. He has his passport. He got it during the holidays, and now he has to sign a letter for FIFA to approve it. In his case, I don't know if. In his case, it was probably like a two-part, like change of association, and also I'm thinking they probably have proof that he lived in El Salvador the 5 years, because there's no talks about it anymore. I knew that in the past there was some issue around the lack of documentation backing up the length of time that he had been in the country. So as far as I know, that's where it stands. There was a report today on El Diario El Salvador where his father said that now the club has the final word, Alianza Petrolera, which
seems
I'm not even going to speak to that. I think that things don't work that way, but I think it's better just not to speculate and just wait and see. If it happens, it happens. It will be a great addition if it happens. He's obviously a player that I don't know if he's going to fix the goal scoring problems that people seem to get excited about fixing that problem, and I think there's more to that. But he's definitely a player that's different, that brings different qualities to the table than any other player that we have in his position at this time. So hopefully, we see him playing for El Salvador soon.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a great addition. Can't hurt. We've seen his quality while he's playing with FAS, but then some of the goals that I've seen him scoring in Colombia are pretty impressive. And again, it's just one of those situations where it's a personal decision, and that's that. We're not in the person's shoes. Obviously, as Salvadoran fans, anyone that's eligible, whether it would be Messi, Lewandowski, or players of that caliber, and you find out that they're eligible and they haven't chosen a national team, of course you're gonna get motivated to try and get players like that on your team. Look at what's happened with Pepe in Mexico. This kid born and raised in Texas, obviously from a Mexican family, and now that he's having that success, that he's gone through the US system and reached that success, made that jump to Europe, now you're having some of the Mexican fans being kind of, bitter about it. But it's a personal decision, Pepe played the card of, this is the country I've grown up in. This is a system that's created me. And since he got to the national team, that's when his profile elevated. So, we'll see what happens with the players on the fringe like Tomás Romero, Brian Hill. But in my personal stance is until we see them playing in an official match, I don't really care, like that's cool and all, like you're thinking about it, dope. And then in Tomas's case, that's cool that he's represented El Salvador at different levels. He finally made his first team debut and whatnot. But until they're playing, in the matches that matter, can't really do much. So I'm not too worried or concerned. I think with Mario Gonzalez, we have a really decent keeper. I think just the main flaw that he's had throughout is just keeping his calm and nerves playing out of the back. All right. Well, Uro's tired as hell. I'm getting there. I think we're gonna close this out, ladies and gentlemen. But more than anything, what we're looking forward to is just solid performances. Hopefully the team doesn't have to deal with too many injuries. Hopefully COVID doesn't spoil the party. And we just see, the fine-tuned version of the Uoneta, like the closest thing to the Gold Cup, but even better because all these months have progressed. They've had time together. They've been able to work together. Because we haven't seen that. And that's why it was so important for Les Festival to look beyond this process, this qualifying campaign, because they weren't going to get that end product or fine-tuned product leading into September. It was impossible. But again, we'll just have to see how this plays out. I think that's one thing we always say is we shall see, or let's see what happens. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for checking out the podcast. I know we've been on a hiatus. We got these matches coming up, so we'll be back hopefully with guests, a couple surprises here and there, and we'll see the team hopefully alive by the end of it, or else winter's not over until March. So it'll be a long winter. In any case, don't forget to like, subscribe. We're the Corner Blue. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can catch the podcast audio only on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can get the video on YouTube and also on Facebook. Ooh, anything you want to add before we bounce out? Because I'm cold. It's freaking freezing.
No. Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to recording more frequently this year. And yeah, please like us and follow us. Recommend our podcast to anyone who supports La Selecta, who for one reason or another feels more comfortable listening to content in English. And that's what we do. I mean, I'm still learning English. Andres, he's a fluent English speaker.
Yeah,
but
I'm gringo forever.
But yeah, it's good, that we also, as part of doing this podcast in English, we might even ignite that flame for some of those Salvadorians who maybe don't follow La Selecta, but as a result of our podcast, they start following La Selecta because they actually
maybe I should stop
listen.
cussing. Maybe that'll offend some people.
That's okay, because that's kind of part of introducing the culture.
My dream for 2022 is that El Salvador's flag is finally on one of these. And for those listening, not watching, I'm holding up one of those soccer balls that has like the flags of the countries that tend to make it into the World Cup on a constant. That second tier soccer ball that you get as a kid. Not the first was Mi Casa or like nicer balls. This one was the one that your parents could pick up at El Super and you'd be happy to play with it till it got all worn out, or you kicked it over a fence, or las viejas de la colonia would stab it with something after throwing boiling water on you. Anyway, here's my hope that finally El Salvador is on this, because I remember as a kid looking at it and being like, Honduras. All right. So yeah, that's my hope for 2022. Thanks for checking out the podcast, listening to us, being patient, because I know sometimes I get frustrated with podcasts that I like listening to weekly or on a routine status, and when I don't get it, I'm just left hanging or jonesing. So sorry if you guys were jonesing for some of the content. If you were, shit, I appreciate it, because we do this for fun. We want to be able to interact, and we want to put content out there that y'all can support and enjoy, considering that there's very divisive times, even when it comes to La Selecta, even when it comes to where you were born or where players play or where they were brought up. Like, it's crazy. But I feel like what we're trying to do here on this show is kind of put all that bullshit aside. Sorry again for cussing, and just focus on the matches, on the facts. We're going to throw our opinions. We're going to be subjective. That's normal. We're human. That's a part of it. But we don't want to divide shit up, because you see too much of the division, too much throwing mierda at fulano and sultana, mengano and whatnot. And the truth is, we're just here to break stuff down and enjoy this as we go, and be there for the cringe moments. We're talking about La Selecta here. It's always going to be a bumpy ride. But in any case, thank you again for tuning in. Thanks, Hugo, for coming on. And yes, hopefully we get that flag on this. It's missing a little more blue and white. See, here's Honduras on it, but wouldn't it be nice to have the little escudo right there saying Dios unión libertad? Anyway, we'll catch you guys later.